Stuff every day. And here we go. We're going to dive right into one of the top 100 commercials of all time, according to the Drum. And let's look at this one. This is a fun one. It's just car parts in a Rube Goldberg, if you know what that is. If you don't, this is what it is. It's like falling dominoes, but with everything but dominoes. And it's very ingeniously built. There's no copy in it, which is part of why I'm showing it to you. I don't know how this one works. How do the tires roll uphill? All I can figure is they're weighted funny. Anyway, but we can skip to the end because it just keeps going like this. The windshield blows that over. The battery connects up, runs the radio, vibrates the windshield, rolls the spring, and closes the back gate, which tips the car forward.
Isn't it nice?
And has it coast down the
things
hill.
Just work.
And somehow it stops at the right spot. I don't know quite what. But that's a Honda commercial from years ago. And, you know, talk about minimalistic. But it was a nice, you know, I've watched it, I don't know what, 20 times probably. Just trying to figure out what it's doing. And it is fun to watch. I don't know if it sold cars. You know, I'm kind of into that. But we're going to talk about copy next, so you can decide for yourself whether that makes any sense or not. And now let's get over to the PDF world. And here we go. First off, direct mail and marketing. What a nice name for a company. Direct mail and marketing. Direct mail and marketing rebrands as Engine. That's the new name of the company, Engine. And it's going to reflect service diversity. And I don't know if that's, you know, if people diversity, it doesn't look that diverse, or idea diversity, but this is service diversity. And what they're saying is that they do a lot more stuff than just direct mail. But they've been a leader in direct mail for space for decades in the UK, but now they do other stuff. I wonder what percentage, though, the other stuff brings in. I think sometimes a lot of people just want to get rid of the direct mail now that it's in a somewhat of a renaissance. Let's see, services now provided by the company to the sport, health, and corporate sectors, which are pretty broad. Print, fulfillment, apparel, digital automation. Well, again, it would be interesting to see a breakdown of their and here's some more listed services: digital print, wide format, direct to film for apparel, mailing, plus finishing, cutting, and fulfillment. Die cutting and fulfillment. Sounds a lot like printing to me. Okay, anyway, sad to see direct mail go. Here's an excellent article by Summer Gould. Something to keep in mind. It reminded me of many failures I've either fostered or encountered along the way. When direct mail goes bad, it can cost you a lot of money. Before you send your next campaign, be sure to take into consideration some of the following issues. There are many things that can go wrong. Believe it or not, bad direct mail is very common. Okay, and the first area is list. Your list is extremely important. There are many things that can go wrong with your data. You can have old, outdated information. You can select the wrong people to get the offer. You can have an offer for men only, but some women are entered in with the wrong gender code. And an audit of major compilers found that the most likely to be right variable was gender, and it was wrong half the time. 50-50. So that just gets, you know, if you trust the data, you always want to consider putting an offer together in case it's read by the wrong people. Sort of like the famous Sports Illustrated ad that accidentally ran during Saturday morning cartoons. It wasn't for kids, but it actually pulled extraordinarily well because the dads weren't that engaged with the cartoons and were happy to get up and make a phone call and subscribe to the magazine, as opposed to running it in a major sporting event when the audience was very engaged and didn't want to pick up the phone and forgot to later. So lots of things can go wrong. I once did a mailing to for the cable company in Milwaukee, not realizing that the zip code definitions and the borders of the city of Milwaukee, which were the franchise, were the only available places for the cable at that time, were not at all connected. That the zip codes went way out into the suburban areas, mainly by major roads. And yeah, we got a lot of orders, but didn't sell a lot of stuff. I know of a cataloger that mailed a couple of 100,000 pieces where the actual street address was left out. We had the person's name, we had the city, state, zip code, right? But the middle line was not properly inkjet onto the catalog, and there was a settlement involved with that, and nobody caught it. Nobody saw it at the list company because the list was prepared improperly, and nobody saw it at the printer, and nobody even saw it at the post office until it got to the actual postal delivery person. So a lot can go wrong with your list. I could probably go on for 20 minutes just on that level. Apple once did a mailing with sending out Apple credit cards to designers, and they were assured by the mailer that they were only going to send them to people with very, very good credit. They got an incredible response because they happened to send it to people with very, very bad credit. I had a client that I got after this that was using a relatively new release of an old established software package, and they had gotten the recency backwards, and they had mailed the oldest names rather than the most recent buyers. It almost put them out of business. But it can be simpler things. Like Cabela's, when we first started modeling for them, we found that the most recent buyers were not very valuable. And it took us quite a while to figure out that what Cabela's had been doing is for years, they'd been mailing the most recent buyers in the fall, the fishing catalog in the spring. And the most recent buyers were hunters. And their number one complaint from customers was, why do you send me all these fishing catalogs? Or in the fall, it was flip-flopped. Why do you send me all these hunting catalogs? So a lot can go wrong with the list. You got to keep that stuff in mind. A call to action. I remember going in with Elena Neely from the U.S. Postal Service to Oakley. They were going to try out a mailer, and they had no visible call to action. They said, oh, yes, it's here in the body copy down there. I said, that doesn't count. I've increased response 20% just by making the call to action. Could be phone number, could be website, could be QR code. Putting something on there. You can increase it by 20% by making it bigger. Designers don't like that, but it does two things. One, it gives people a way to respond, but it also tells people that you want a response, that this is the kind of mailing that has an offer, that maybe there's something there for them. And so it's really important to have a call to action that resonates with your audience. Choose it carefully. Wordy. Too many words or the wrong words can get your mail piece tossed in the trash. Most mail pieces get tossed in the trash anyway, but I understand what summer means. Be concise and get to the point. Let them know what's in it for them and how they can get it. Details on the products are a turnoff, but if it has a size and a shape, you might want to mention it. It took me about 5 years to buy a refrigerator that would fit into my house. Houses have changed. They've been designed around the refrigerators. My son asked me if they wanted a second refrigerator, and they said, did it matter that, the R value? And I said, well, the number one thing that makes refrigerators inefficient is opening the door. You can have the most efficient refrigerator in the world, but if you open the door too often, it doesn't matter. So you're better off, you get more cubic feet on a less expensive refrigerator that you keep the door closed, and it'll be more efficient than the fancy one that doesn't hold very much. So anyway, it's good to have some minimum product details. As we found out on yesterday's show, with Jonathan's scientific studies on catalogs and copy. Grammar and misspellings, I remember a catalog where the owner said, we have two different kinds of gray in our catalog, Grey and Gray, because we'd use product copy from the manufacturers, from different manufacturers. And so we had to go through and find all the words for gray, and luckily we were on a word processor by then, and change them all to be consistent. I forget whether it was Gray or Grey. But then after we did that, about a week later, he wanted them all switched back to the other, whatever the other spelling was. And I was sitting at I think I wrote an article on this. I was sitting at the printers doing a press okay on Christmas Eve while their Christmas party was raging around me. And I was thinking to myself, I wonder if the catalog would really do any worse with all the mistakes that we managed to correct. Would it have done any better? I remember, I think it was Vermont Country Store told me that they were typesetting on a laser printer back in the very, very early days. And I said, what about all the stray dots? They said, what's interesting is that when you shoot the films, the stray dots disappear. We actually tested it, and it did exactly the same, but it was much less expensive. So there's a lot of these issues. Format. Many USPS regulations can cost you a lot of money. I remember driving to Chicago because the Milwaukee Post Office told me that a computer printed letter was first-class mail. It had an offer that said, you bought this, you might like this, in an envelope. They said it was personal. I had to drive to Chicago and have the USPS rule on it down there, and they said, no, this is computer generated, and they had some new regs coming out. Eventually they sorted it out, and we didn't have to pay the extra postage. I also remember doing a fairly large 56-page catalog on a little bit bulky stock. It's on my wall behind me, and we just ticked up into the next highest weight category, and that cost us a lot because we were mailing 500,000 pieces. Timing, make sure you get it there with enough time. The Postal Service keeps extending the expected delivery dates, so you don't want your mailer to arrive after the sale is over. Something to keep in mind. Sometimes that timeliness is better done with some more rapid digital marketing, at least as a follow-up. Many times the best way to stop mistakes is to allow enough time for the creative production processes. Amen to that. And here's a good one from Summer. It's also a good idea to have someone from outside your organization look over your final concept to make sure they understand your offer and that it's appealing. And wait, there's more. From Craig Huey. I've been wanting to get this off. Don't keep your readers waiting. Don't keep your readers waiting to discover your intentions. Long, cute introduction without telling the reader the point. It's a fatal mistake. Don't make your prospect read for 4 or 5 paragraphs or more to find out what you're selling. Be the expert for your reader. As a marketer, you're competing with multiple distractions to drive attention and interest. You have one chance at the start of the copy. Don't be afraid to fire your biggest gun at that point. I'm going to tell you about a natural health product that heals your aches just as well as prescription medicine, but with no side effects whatsoever, not even one. That's an example. Excellent. Thank you for that, Craig. Have a great day. Like and share. Your friends will know you're smart. Bye-bye.